Welcome to today's webinar with Strove. I'm Adrian Penzorn. I'm the Health and Nutrition Lead at Strove, and many of you here will know a little bit about us. You've been on our platform, hopefully all of you, and if not, one or two who's still going to test things out and see everything that we've got to offer. But my responsibility, a lot of it revolves around nutrition and what we are building. Today's session is just on that, one of the nutritional topics. We're going to have a few more webinars and across sort of various things. You know that we touch on physical health, mental health, and nutritional elements. And today's wellness in the workplace webinar is all around snack struggles, right? And that's my focus with you guys here today. Now, you're all joined here. You clicked on, you wanted to register and come see what I've got to say or learn something because you've got something front of mind that's nutritional. Maybe there's something in your diet that you want to fix. Maybe you've got a health goal. Maybe you're just interested in the topic a little bit more broadly. But for all of us, we've normally got something that we want to improve. And I know from experience, when we want to fix our diet, they're normally one of three places that I'm always going to start with when I'm talking to someone about what they're doing, when I want to assess how things are going. And the first one is snacking and eating frequency. The second is what we're drinking. So the calories or the alcohol or whatever it is, the little bits and pieces that get in the way. And the third is our protein intake. These three things for me are the low-hanging fruit of nutritional changes. They're topics worth speaking about because they're quite easy to adjust and change. And they also come with pretty good bang for buck. We get a lot of output by focusing on a few key areas across these three elements. Sure, there are many others. And along the way, when you're trying to fix what's going on, you'll dig a little bit deeper. But 80% of the people that I work with, I find that this is a good point of departure in terms of having one thing to focus on when you start. And obviously today I'm talking about snacking. That's me there with a bright yellow little bubble above my head. Me, I'm a dietitian. So by trade, I've qualified, I'm a registered dietitian. And part of what that involves is working with people to improve their nutritional habits. I've been in private practice. I've worked with teams and athletes. More recently, I've moved into digital health like Strove and what we're doing here. And importantly, trying to put nutrition front and center at what we do and try to evolve it into ways that we can help people eat a little bit better. All right. So as my role evolves here, and the things that we chat about today, I'm going to talk about this from the experience of what I've done with clients over the years, patients trying to improve their nutritional habits, and how we built that into some sort of coaching and behavior change where we focus on the key elements that we know are going to improve our outcomes and set us up for long-term success. And I think snacking is a really good point to start with for this, for a number of reasons. Right. So firstly, let me just define what I mean when I'm talking about snacking. So a snack, I'm sure like we'll know, is just a small amount of food that's eaten between meals. Right. We've come a long way since we were first around, and to give a little bit of historical perspective here, we were obviously originally snackers by nature. We were grazers, we were gatherers. We foraged for all the food that we could. So naturally what we did was just eat what we could find and we'd consume it as we sort of went along. That was the early human diet that evolved when we evolved. And about 10,000 years ago, with the advent of agriculture, a lot more structure and routine came into our day. So the routine came around working. We had very physical work that we had to get through. And the days started to match that. And what we did to feed and fuel those days started to fall into this routine as well. To wake up and break the fast first thing in the morning before heading out into the field and to get through the work that was needed to be done, a meal would be consumed. The second most popular meal that would have been consumed at the time was the one at the end of the day that replenished and refueled time. Spent a full day out there, very demanding work, time was available, food was available now, and a large meal would be eaten at the end of the day. Those are the two most common meals consumed. Lunch started to become a thing. Obviously, midday would normally be when a break was taken, and hard work might need to have something before the afternoon work continued, get out of the heat of the day and take a little break. And lunch was a very small thing. Snacking was never common unless something was available and perhaps the need for a little bit of energy arose, but it would normally be two main meals in the day, possibly an opportunity for something midday. And that's what the world was like for a long time. When we move over and evolved into what modern day sort of eating and habits and nutrition looks like, we live in a very different world now. We've got low energy work. We're not out in the field all day. We're not expending a lot of energy to get through it. It's not very physical in its demands. And now we're surrounded by an abundance of food. Anything's available whenever we need it. We've got it. I've got the fridge next to me here. I've got some food in front of me in my lunch bag that I take to work. I've got a canteen around the corner. We all know that access to food is a lot easier and more readily available, right? And to tie into that, our triggers that are driving us to eat are also more numerous, more varied. There are a lot more things that are actually guiding our food choices. Some of them we're aware of, and others we aren't. And where I want to go into at the start of this chat is what that sort of looks like. And snacking has become abundant, right? We rely on snacking. Most of us here in the room have got a stat there for you. 95% of adults snack. So almost all of us here across the webinar today snack as adults. It's what we do. In fact, almost half of our eating in a day is snacking. The most common type of meal that we're going to eat through a day is a snack. And on average, we consume almost 5 meals per day. So we're eating frequently. And because we're eating frequently, we're also consuming a large amount of energy from our snacks. Almost a quarter of your daily energy intake will actually come from snacks. And these snacks are also quite dense in energy. They're typically a source of fat and sugar. And what we see is that about a third of our sugar intake also comes from snacks. So we're eating a lot of them. They're contributing quite a lot to our energy. In certain instances, contributing quite a lot to things we maybe don't want too much of in the case of sugar. And we know that it provides energy, and we feel that it provides energy because over half of us will suffer an afternoon slump without a snack. So we've also become to rely on them. They're quite an important part in getting through the day. In the workplace, quite a lot of us see that they play a critical role. So 83% of workers consider snacks to be critical and a great perk. So to getting through your day, be it in the workplace or working from home or whatever it is now, it's a very important part of our day. And we know that because it also improves productivity. It avoids that afternoon slump. And for many of us, it improves just the satisfaction of kind of getting through the day as well. So it's common. It's something that we see all the time. Hang on, sorry, I was just checking a chat here. Who has not got in? Got a few. There shouldn't have been a waiting room, but let's have a look. There we go. Everyone else is coming in. All right, so we know that it's common. We know that we're snacking a fair bit. We know that it's contributing quite a lot to our energy. But the question that we also want to know, sort of, why are we doing this? Why are we eating? And a very important part here is something that I want to show is just a bit of definition and a distinction between two common things, right? These are the biological drive to eat and the psychological drive to eat, right? Now, in English and language, we quite often get this, we intermingle them, we interchange them between appetite and hunger. We think that they're actually the same thing. We think, I'm hungry or my appetite's big or whatever it is. But I want to leave you guys with something today that helps to just define the difference between these. Right? And firstly, what is hunger? Hunger is our biological drive to eat. It's your body's survival mechanism that sends cues to say, hey, I need some food. It's normally triggered by low blood glucose or a calorie deficit. That's your body's just saying to you, I need to get some energy in. I need to get a little bit more because you're not feeding me enough. If any of us have been on a diet here, one of the first things that you notice is that you're hungry. You're more hungry when you're on a diet. And that's natural. Your body's producing hormones that are telling you to eat because it doesn't want to be in a calorie deficit. Your body doesn't like change. It always wants to try and get back to status quo, to equilibrium. And that's the important part of it. So hunger is that biological drive. It's your body's need for food. Then we compare that to the psychological drive. This is what appetite is. All right. Now, appetite, hunger, very different. All right. We use them interchangeably, but very different. So appetite are the psychological cues that are causing us to want to eat. These might be sensory, so it might be a smell. We walk past a bakery and we smell the bread, and that makes us want to eat. It might be the sight of something. We see a very delicious burger on TV, and all of a sudden we think that we want to eat that. There's sensory stimuli that are causing us to want to eat. Then the other psychological cues, they might be emotional. I'm sure we've all experienced this. It's boredom that causes us to eat. It's stress, or it's happiness, or it's sadness. There are all sorts of other reasons that we think we want to eat that are psychologically driven and aren't in fact hunger. They might also be social or cultural. It might be the Saturday bride. It might be a birthday that is now all about food and cake and things that are that we want to consume. It might be a cultural event that happens every Friday afternoon. It might be 10 o'clock tea time, which has just socially become the time that I grab a cup of tea, but I have a rusk with it as well. And I'm not hungry. There are these cues and habits and reminders and triggers that are causing me to want to eat that isn't biological. It isn't actually what I need. And when we want to try and fix our diet, when you want to try and focus on snacking and our habits around it, this is where we need to start. We need to be able to appreciate hunger from appetite and assess how that impacts us. And now what we typically do, and a nice game that I often play with clients of mine, and I think something that you can all practice over the next few days, is this hunger game. The next time and over the next couple of days and weeks that you feel like you need to eat something, start by asking yourself the question whether this is physical hunger that I'm feeling, or is it driven by emotional or situational cues. All right. Now, physical hunger, that's your stomach's grumbling. It's a little sound that it makes. You can feel it twisting a little bit. It might be a dip in energy. It might be fatigue, maybe not being able to concentrate too well. I can't really get the most out of my day at the moment. I'm having a bit of a dip. Sure, chances are that might be hunger. Or asking yourself, is this perhaps situational? Is it really something else that's triggered this? It's that 10 o'clock tea time. Maybe I've smelt that bakery down the road, or maybe I'm just bored or stressed, or what's this actual trigger? Think about that the next couple of times that you look at having something, and then go down the path here of what do I need to do? Because we want to move away from eating due to appetite and appreciate eating due to hunger. Right? That's the tool that's going to set us up for long-term success. If I need a snack, I want to know that the snack is there to curb my hunger, not to satisfy my appetite. If it's not hunger and it's appetite, we want to look at replacing that. Right? You don't want to replace these other cues of boredom and stress or whatever it is with food. We want to look at a better output. Maybe it's a hobby. If it's boredom, what can I replace this time with that's actually going to reward me that isn't food-based? Maybe it's stress. Maybe it is the exercise and some meditation or breath work that's going to help me overcome that. I don't want to rely on food to be that crutch. Maybe there are a couple of tricks that you can use, and these are a couple, sort of 3 examples that I've used quite regularly with various clients. And they might be quite useful for you as well. One of them is chewing some gum. That action of the mouth moving, a bit of flavor in there, seems to curb some of the appetite because it's not hunger, and we're getting something from that. Similarly, brushing your teeth, very useful trick, especially if you struggle with those sort of late night munchies after dinner, before sitting down and relaxing for the night. Brush your teeth. Chances are you won't feel like you need that little block of chocolate and the little biscuit while you're watching Netflix, whatever it is, with a little simple trick like that. It might also just require you to make the hard choice. We eat due to appetite because of habits that we've practiced over and over and over again. And the world that we're in now is driven by appetite over hunger. We've suppressed our natural hunger cues to respond to appetite, and that's only through practice. We need to unlearn that by practicing new things, by responding to hunger, and by overcoming appetite and the triggers and the cues that cause that, by sometimes just making that hard choice, knowing what's causing it, either choosing an alternative or saying, no, I'm not hungry. I don't need this right now. On the other side, you've gone through the questions and it is hunger, and that's totally fine. Sometimes it's going to be hunger, not all the time. You'll be surprised as you practice over the next few days or weeks how often it's actually hunger and how often it's appetite. If it is hunger and you think you're hungry, start with some water. The other cue that we get a little bit confused by with our body is thirst and hunger. They are quite similar, and again, quite often we misread being dehydrated as being hungry. If you want to control your intake and you want to be a bit mindful, maybe you've got some goals you want to achieve, you've said to yourself, I am hungry, make sure you're well hydrated first and you're not thirsty. Then give yourself a score of how hungry you are. Right. This is where the hunger game kind of kicks off. You've decided I am hungry, and now out of 10, 1 to 10, how hungry am I? Right. Give you a score where 10 is absolutely starving, and 1 is obviously full, as full as I can be. 10 starving, 1 as full as I can be. And this leads into what I call sort of the rule of 8. And quite simple, if we start eating, or we only eat when I'm 8 out of 10 hungry, and I stop eating when I'm only 8 out of 10 full, you're going to have the most powerful tools for controlling your intake long-term that you can have. Being mindful and eating a bit more intuitively around this is going to set you up. It's much easier than following a meal plan for the rest of your life, or tracking your calories, or always having to diet and rebound and what's going on, because you aren't changing your behavior. But if you're learning some skills like this, you know when to eat and when to stop eating, you're going to be a lot better off for it. Right, so I want to eat when I'm 8 out of 10 hungry. Before that, don't need it. I can go a little bit longer. At 9 or 10, when you're starving, you're also running into some problems there, because the chances are you're either going to overeat because you're just hungry, you want to get something in, or you're going to eat the wrong things, right? It's the first thing I can find. You know, I'm 10 out of 10. I don't have time. I'm not going to make anything. I haven't prepped anything. I'm going to make a bad choice. Right, so either your choice or your portion control will go out the window. Then stopping when you're 8 out of 10 full is going to set you up for much better portion control, right? If you can go through life always feeling like I've never overeaten, I could have always had one more mouthful, you're going to be in a really good place. There are a lot of cultures and religions that really prioritize this. And historically and anecdotally, we found that they are quite healthy, because naturally they've been able to rein in and appreciate, and in some cases even punish, overeating. We know that if we can eat to being satisfied without being overly full, we're going to control our intake a little bit better once we start learning what this hunger and satiety is all about. So practice over the next few days, asking yourself, is this hunger or appetite? Then your scale, your game, your rule of 8. Right, I want to start eating when I'm 8 out of 10 hungry, and I want to stop eating when I'm 8 out of 10 full. It's going to be a good sort of starting point to get you going in terms of portion control, when I should eat, if I should snack, and what that might look like. What that might look like in practice is perhaps the question of how often should I eat? Do we actually need to snack? Will it kind of fit in with what I need to do? In my opinion, 80% of us will get by eating 2 to 4 meals per day. Right. I think that's plenty. On the low side, the 2 a day, maybe fewer of us if we're really trying to control our intake. We perhaps want to restrict our calories and really keep things tight. But the risk there is you don't give yourself enough opportunity to get in enough good food. For most of us, 3 or 4 meals a day is going to be plenty. I prefer that to erring on the side of 5, 6 small meals a day, which was the craze and the myth for a long time. The risk with that is the more often you eat, the more often the chance is that you're going to get it wrong. So maybe you're going to make a poor food choice. Maybe you're going to get your portions a little bit wrong. Maybe you've just got to put too much time into making 5 or 6 different things to eat throughout the day when you can just do it with 3. Why not keep it as simple as possible and just get 3 things right instead of trying to do it too often? If you can't get 3 or 4 hours in between meals, the chances are something's a little bit wrong with your meal. So it's a nice sort of gauge to understand how you're getting on and whether you need to snack and what the purpose of it might be is. If you can't get 3 or 4 hours in between each meal, you might just want to look at the meal that you had before that. Right. So if you have breakfast and you find that breakfast at 7, by 9 o'clock, I'm feeling peckish again, and yes, it actually is hunger, have a look back at that meal and check 3 things. Right. The balance in a meal is determined by having a source of protein, having a source of fiber, and having a source of fat. Right. Those are the 3 things that'll say it's balanced. If you're getting hungry in this window of sort of 2 or 3 hours, the chances are one of those are either missing or just not enough. Right. We want to make sure there's some balance. Now, this doesn't work for everyone. I've said about 80% of us are going to get by on this. There are a few people who need to eat a little bit more often, and that's okay. Everyone's approach to nutrition is a bit different, but specifically, just to mention, people with very high energy needs will need to eat more regularly. Most of us aren't physically laboring throughout the day. We're not athletes training for hours or multiple times a day. And those individuals will need to eat more often. It's very hard to get in the calories you need from smaller meals. Similarly, if you're trying to pick up weight, you might need to eat a little bit more often, a bit more regularly to get into a calorie excess. And diabetics, particularly diabetics on any insulin regimen, need their meals planned a little bit closer to their dosing strategies. Right, away from that, I think for the rest of us, we'll get by. 3 or 4 meals a day should suffice, and we can just focus on getting that right. Now, that's half the battle, if not actually a little bit more. Understanding your behavior, your hunger, your appetite, what's driving you to eat and driving you to snack. Right, so if you focus on that and you put a little bit of work into that very important foundation, you're going to get away with a lot of other things. Right, you might get away with the foods that you're choosing to eat. You might get away with your portions a little bit because your frequency is okay. You're not eating unnecessarily. All of a sudden, you're not snacking mindlessly. It takes care of quite a lot of problems for many of us. Right, but like I said, that's about half of the battle. The other bit that's remaining and the hurdles that we overcome, particularly when we look at perhaps what successful snacking might look like, I find there are 2 common themes. And one of them is time, and the other is our environment. Time, just because we're busy. We've got something to do. We still need to exercise, get the kids from school. I've got to get my work done. The thing that always gets pushed down the wayside is some good nutritional preparation. That ties into creating our environment. Right? If your environment isn't conducive to reducing the friction, to the choices you've got to make, everything becomes a little bit harder. If the wrong things aren't on hand, you're going to make a poor choice. So if I can go and stock my fridge and my pantry with foods that match what I want to be eating when I'm hungry, it's going to be easier. Similarly, if you've got a bowl of fruit, perhaps you're in the office, the things that you see are the things that you're going to eat. You put the good foods in the front of your fridge. You put a fruit bowl out. These are the things that you're going to gravitate towards. If the first thing that you see is a vending machine when you're hungry, what are we going to choose? So creating this environment is very important in terms of trying to get the results that we want. One of the easy ways of creating an environment is just keeping the right foods on hand. All right, and I'm going to wrap up today with a little bit of practical sort of ideas around putting good snacking into place. We've run through it and we've said, right, not appetite, it is hunger. I need to eat. This is great. I'm going to be a bit more productive for it. What do I need to eat? I've got a very concise, simplified list here of things to keep around. Right. You can have a look at the different options that are on the screen there. I have earlier in the chat, I mentioned to you protein, fiber, and fat as the balance to all meals. And it's a good way to think about our snacking as well, and particularly in that order. So what you'll see here, I've grouped those things together. The first group is protein. And if you're thinking about snacking, start with that. A protein-rich food. Why? Because most of us are unlikely to be getting to our protein intake because we rely on dinner to do it. Lunch, maybe. Breakfast, I can almost guarantee you 80% of you guys aren't having protein at all or enough in breakfast. So a snack's just another opportunity to get your daily intake. Right? We often need a little bit more than we think. It also keeps us fuller for longer. We're less likely to need to snack again if we have a bit of protein. And the body has to work a little bit harder, so it costs more to break down protein than the rest, plus all of the health benefits with getting in enough protein. The second would be fiber. All right, so it's a lot of our fruit and vegetables. Why we want to keep them on hand, and they're great options for snack. We get fiber in, we're also going to get fuller. It's going to help put a bit of bulk into our stomach, help keep us fuller for longer and less likely to snack a little bit later. So fruit, vegetables, or whole grains, a couple of really simple options just to keep around there. And then the last is fat. Right, so I've given a few healthy fat examples. I've put that as the last one, and that's why the order is protein, fiber, and then fat. Fat's the one we just need to be mindful of our portions as well. It's the most energy dense, so things like nuts and seeds, they're great options for a snack, but very easy to overconsume. We need to kind of keep an eye on how much of those we're having because they come with a decent cost. If you've got these things on hand, it's going to be easy. Snack on whichever one you sort of like, preferably on protein more often than not. Otherwise, the fiber choice. Lastly, the fat. Pretty simple. Keep these around, put them in your fridge, in your cupboard, and they're going to be easy solutions for when you're hungry. If you've got them on hand, you can also make up a couple lacquer things. So just the last sort of bit of, to wrap it up, a little bit of tasty things. So I'm going to give you a couple recipes. Right. 3 that I've got the things in front of me here. I'm not going to get too practical. I'm going to show you what I've got, talk you through what we're doing, and hopefully just get you guys here in the kitchen where it makes life a little bit easier. These 3 things you could most probably spend 15 minutes and make enough snacks for you and anyone else in the house to last a week. This first one is my DIY protein bars, which is great. Protein bars can be a really good option for a snack. The ones in the market aren't always great, very long list of ingredients, cost a small fortune to be able to maybe use those every day, and maybe not always the greatest tasting either. Right. Simple 5 ingredients. You can make your own, and it's literally going to take you about 15 minutes. All you need is 100 grams of macadamia nuts. It's a really delicious, nice, healthy fats. 100 grams of dates, and then a beautiful little double espresso there. Soak the dates in the espresso. It makes them nice and soft, and then we get that beautiful coffee flavor in there. A little bit of a caffeine hint as well to get you going. 2 teaspoons of cocoa powder, and you're going to just put it together in a food processor or a blender. It goes into lovely paste. You roll it nice and flat like my picture looks there in front of you, and you're left with little bars like that. Really simple. It's going to get you about 8 or 9 bars, depending how big you cut them, and they'll last you 4 or 5 days. Wrap them up. That's enough for a week. It literally took you about 15 minutes to do that. All right. Also, so the last ingredient I didn't mention was the protein powder. Use a nice vanilla flavored one, any one you like, plant-based, whey, whatever you feel like, and get that in. And that's obviously your protein hit that you'll get from it. All right, so that's really, really simple, lovely DIY protein bar. All right, the next is this meal prep crudité. All right, why I love crudités, one, you can just buy them in packet. You don't have to spend too long prepping them. They're normally hard veg, so they're going to last you a little bit longer. You can keep them in the fridge. You know, you've got, put them on the fiber list there for you as well. Your carrots, cucumber, celery, they'll last a week. Beautifully, tasty, crunchy. Texture often helps when we need a little snack and we sort of craving something, but they're a great vehicle for some beautiful dips. Right, and the two common ones, often we'll keep them in the fridge, some hummus and guacamole. Hummus, great for some protein and fiber, really easy to make yourself as well. You don't have to spend, you know, what some shops are charging you for them. Guacamole, great source of fiber and healthy fat. And I wanted to introduce you to a slightly different version, omega-3 dip that packs a lovely little protein punch and some flavor. And it's a little bit sort of left field. You might not have thought of doing something like this with a really good pantry staple. So it's in a tuna. You can actually use any tinned fish as well. So it doesn't have to be tuna. You could use anything. You could also mix up a couple different types of tinned fish, which is great. A tin of that, we've got 90 grams of cottage cheese, fat-free cottage cheese. It's great. We've got 50 grams of carrots that you're just going to grate. Capers, if you like them. My wife doesn't, so I can't put them into it if she's going to eat them, but I absolutely love them. Great little salty hit that goes in there. Chopped up with some spring onion, a little bit of lime, mustard, and cayenne pepper. Just mix it together. That will take you literally about 5 minutes to do, and you can do a nice bowl that'll last you 3 days in the fridge. Take it with you, stick it in the fridge at work, whatever it is, and you've got your crudités. If you want to use it with crackers instead as well, you can. Very simple, very delicious, mostly things that are going to be in your pantry. And then the last is one of my favorites, a little high protein chocolate treat, which is as good, if not better, than some chocolate mousse. And all you need is half a cup of low-fat yogurt, a tablespoon of protein powder. I use protein powder in this just to get a little bit more protein into my yogurt. Things like Greek yogurts are a little bit difficult to find in South Africa, which is the higher protein version. So I just like to fortify it a little bit, and it adds a little bit of flavor as well. Then got a teaspoon of cocoa powder. I actually use this little Nomu skinny hot chocolate, which is delicious, a little bit of chocolatey goodness. And you whisk it together. Now, whisking, it's going to get a little bit of air in there, and it actually makes it bulk up a little bit, helps to keep you full. You're getting the protein to help as well. You're getting a little bit of flavor, but it's relatively low in calories compared to something else that might be the little late night treat. And we top it with some raspberries or blueberries or something like that, and you can make a few pots ready to go. That'll you'll be able to get a week, sort of 5 days out of doing a few of those. You can do it in bulk, portion it out. This is actually a little travel mug. Lovely way just to stick the lid on and take it in to work. All right. Delicious, super simple and easy. All right. So 3 different recipes just to start you thinking about, right, well, if I've got the foods around, I can actually do some pretty fun things as well. Off the back of this, and I'm going to pop it into the chat in a second, I'm going to ask you guys just to give some feedback on today's session and how you felt, that any sort of advice or any thoughts that you have. But importantly, there is a column to pop your email in. And if you want these recipes, I'm going to put them together in a little recipe pack and send them through to you. I'm going to give you the list of what I think are the snack items for you to keep around, and they're going to make your life a little bit easier, and give you 3 recipes just to get you going in the kitchen. So I'm going to pop that into the chat now, and you'll be able to click on it and go give us some feedback a little bit later. All right. So to wrap up, and I'm going to get to the questions in a minute. So we've just got to our half-hour mark, which is pretty good going. I've thrown a lot of information at you guys. try to get a lot of value into this, both in terms of the skills and the tastes behind what we want to be doing. I just wanted to sort of swing back to, I mentioned what we're doing at Strove in terms of trying to put nutrition at the heart of what we do to improve people's well-being and productivity. And we're doing that through our program, which is Nourish, which is the one-on-one coaching with a dietitian. It's digital health coaching. You've got a dietitian in your pocket all the time, replacing what used to be kind of going to visit someone once a month or once every 2 weeks. But importantly, focusing on behavior change like we're doing today. We're talking about the why and the how, not just here's a meal plan, off you go and go do it. We know that putting a human into the mix in a digital world is a little bit better. So what these webinars are doing as well, it's not just, here's some recipes, here's an article on snacking. I want to talk to you guys. I want you to kind of feel the energy. I want to see the questions that you've kind of got. I want to make sure that we're all on track to make sure that it's working. All right. If you want to know anything more about Nourish, please feel free to reach out to me. You'll all have my details after this as well, and we can chat. All right. So hopefully you guys found that interesting, stimulating, food for thought, starting to question a little bit about your own drives of why are you eating, how are you eating, the things that are kind of causing you to do it, and then when you need some solutions, what that might look like. Okay, I'm going to swing back into the chat and the comments here, just because I was on a roll. I didn't have a look at anything as we were going there. So if you have any questions, please let me know, apart from the lobby issue that we seemed to have. All right, there was some audio for some of you. So Marita, you might have struggled with audio, but I'll share the recording as well, just in case you can't. Donay wants to know how much is too much fat. So a really good option in terms, or a really good tool in terms of portions for snacks, protein and fiber, cupped hand. All right, that's how much we want to kind of have in that. If you're having a little bit of protein or you're having any fiber, that cupped hand. For your fat, a good rule of thumb, and excuse the pun, would be that size. So the size of your thumb from that base to the top, that's a sort of portion of fat that you should be looking to include when you have a snack, or for a meal, it might be 1 to 2 of those. So if it's your nuts, if it's a nut butter, if it's an avocado, whatever it is, have a look at your thumb and kind of weigh it up off that. It's a nice, easy way to do it. Sadiqa, which protein powder do you recommend? Everyone, there's so many different ways to go here, but I'd always try and choose the one that's got the highest protein number per 100 grams on the back of the label. You want something that's at least 80 grams and above, then it's a bit more quality, and then the least kind of ingredients beyond that. So if it's got nice low fat and low carbohydrate numbers, then you must probably going to be on track with that, right? But then whether it's whey or casein or a mix, or it's plant-based, or a lot of that's determined just by your own preference, perhaps your own budget, your own tolerance, just in terms of gut health as well. Some people respond a little bit differently to all of those. Glynis, looking forward to sharing those. Great, go fill in the form for me, pop me your email, and then I will send through a little bit of inspiration for you. The recording, happy to share it with you guys as well. Anissa, one of our, someone we've worked with in the past, a great session, reinforced the knowledge that you've gained over the last 2 months. So fantastic being on Nourish with you, and glad this has just reinforced that. Anita, only a pleasure. A lot of you loving it. Thank you. Good feedback. Really appreciate all of that. Is this recipe okay for diabetics as well? All of these will be okay for diabetics. So carbohydrate load on all of this is quite low. So all 3 of them that are shared, the dates, at least what you're getting with that, because it's coming with fat and fiber and protein, it's slowing how quickly you're going to absorb the sugar that's coming from the dates. So that protein bar would actually work quite nicely. The crudités, great. There's fiber, there's protein. If you're not having it with crackers, very low carb. and so too with the little protein pudding. So definitely suitable, Lizelle, for you. Cool. I don't think I missed any other questions there, but guys, you will have my details if there's anything you need, any information, a chat that you want to have. Hopefully something stimulates a little bit of change, or something that you want to talk about. Happy for you guys just to share that. All right, and I'm going to, for anyone who does give feedback through that link, thank you very much. Pop your email in there. I'll share some of these recipes and ideas with you. And then hopefully get you guys joining us in our next nutrition webinar. They're going to be a regular feature, and you can come join me back here in the kitchen and can see what's cooking next time. Guys, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your lunch break. If you're on a lunch break, before you have your lunch, ask yourself if it's hunger or appetite, and we can see what you've learned. Until next time, guys, thanks very much. Have a good day.